with a lot of the instruments, I'll be talking about strings at this point, but I think strings could be a whole episode, unless there's anything you want to say about string availability right now. But because I don't want to not talk about cases.
Yeah.
Because I know cases are an issue.
Cases and strings are a challenge. Cases more than strings, because strings come in a variety of gauges and materials. And if you know what you're doing, you can formulate exactly what you need for your instrument.
Right.
Or you can find somebody who can do that for you. That's something that I do a lot on that Facebook group, just because I'm kind of a string nerd, and I find it fascinating to help people find an optimal string set for their instrument. And it's hard to do at a distance, but you give them parameters to try. And so there are string sets available, but given that the instrument is absolutely not standardized either in its form, its scale length, its tuning, or its construction, it's very hard to make an Irish bouzouki set that's going to work for every instrument. In fact, it's impossible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so there are a few companies who have an Irish bouzouki set, and they work on some instruments, and they don't work on others. What I have always done is purchased individual gauges and make up my own sets. I even do that with guitar, because I've always preferred a balanced tension set. And now, just in the last few years, some of the major companies are starting to offer balanced tension sets. I don't know how much experience you have with guitar, but historically, the A, D, and G strings
with bowed strings also balanced tension.
Yeah. So all of the sets for acoustic guitar and electric guitar, the tension on the A, D, and G strings is much greater than on the E, low E, B, and high E. And I always used to make up my own sets where I'd use a little lighter gauges on the ADG and a little heavier gauges on the EBE to get them, depending on the instrument. If it's an electric guitar, I might want to go around 18 pounds per string, but I like heavy strings on electric guitar. For acoustic guitar, I go around 20. And on some instruments, like if it was an archtop octave mandolin, I might go up to 22 or 24 pounds per string. But, because they work differently, they have to be loaded differently. So I've always made my own sets, and I like to help people do that. And I've actually looked into starting a company that would provide custom gauge sets, but I don't really think it would pay for itself at this point.
It's the profit on fretted instrument strings. They really are cheap.
Yeah.
Bowed instruments. A fiddler doesn't think twice. Well, maybe some of them do, but an experienced fiddler doesn't think twice about spending $100 for a set of strings. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there are any bouzouki players who very few bouzouki players who would pay $100 for a set of strings.
I don't know any. I'm not one.
But that's just, that's what they cost for good violin strings. And then you get into
but a violin has 4 strings and they last longer because you're bowing them.
Right.
Then a bouzouki has 8 strings or 10, and they don't last as long because you're beating the crap out of them, right?
Yeah. There are all sorts of reasons for it, but a violoncello da spalla, which is, we're going to be doing a whole set of episodes on that. Small cello with 5 strings that you wear with a strap around your neck. A set starts at about $200 and go $200 to $700 for a set of strings.
Yeah.
And they don't last a year. The professional players, my customers of that instrument, the professionals go through 3 sets a year strings. And,
that's still far fewer than guitar. If you're a full-time professional guitarist, a lot of people change every day.
Right, I know that.
For every show.
Yeah.
But
it ain't like that, but it's okay. I didn't know we'd have so much to talk about with strings. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And let's finish up with, do you want to say anything about what do you do about a case?
Yeah, my answer is to get a gig bag. And the reason why is that I made the determination years ago when I had an instrument damaged in a flight case that I would never, ever check another instrument if I could avoid it. And so when I fly with a bouzouki, I put it in a gig bag and I carry it on. And if they give me any problems, I show them the gig bag. I open it and I let them feel it. And I tell them, if I allow you to take this instrument and put it in the bin, you're going to crush it. And then we're going to have a lawsuit. So, and it fits in the overhead bin. Don't you think it's okay for me to take it in? And if they say no, I say, well, you've got room in your closet where the captain hangs his coat. And sometimes they'll give in on that. But, it's a very good argument for getting your instrument on the plane, but you have to be willing to not get on that plane if you get some numbskull who's not going to listen to reason. But the other strategy is I always call the airline the night before, and I say, I've flown a lot with my instrument. I make my living with it. I just want to make sure I'll be able to take it on this flight. And so they check the size of the plane, and they say, will it fit in the overhead? And I said, yeah, it fits in every overhead and every plane that you fly. And they say, well, as long as it fits in the overhead, you can carry it on. So then I can tell the person at the gate that I called and I was told I could, and I showed up being assured that I could put it in the overhead. And usually that takes care of it.
Right.
But it's
now,
worth a phone
I'm pretty
call.
sure U.S. law, like federal law, says they have to let you put a musical instrument on a plane leaving the United States. You hear about people having trouble getting back to the United States.
Yeah. There was an FAA letter that went out, and I used to carry a copy of it, saying that if there was room in the overhead, and if it fit in the overhead, that passengers were allowed to put their instrument in the overhead. But there are gate people who don't believe that and who just won't listen to reason. The other thing is, they have a legitimate concern about having a hard case, like a hard guitar case or heaven forbid, a hard banjo case in the overhead, because what if the bin pops open and it falls on grandma's head? Yeah. Right? I wouldn't want to be hit in the head with a hard case. So that's why I say that to them. I have a soft case so that it's safer for the other passengers, right? And I say, here, feel how light this is. And when they feel that, that it weighs 3 pounds or 4 pounds or something, they usually relax about it. It looks big, or they think it's heavy because it looks big to them. Mm-hmm. But when they find out that it's not heavy, they usually relax about it. And with a mandolin, you can put it in a tennis racket cover and they'll never say anything to you.
There you go.
Yeah, I know people who do that. But with a bouzouki, a banjo, a guitar, they're going to notice it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a good point to stop, don't you think?
I do. Yeah.
Given all of our recording worked, I think we've got a winner here.